Hi guys, I'm at Bempton Cliffs in Yorkshire, and anyone that's watched my channel will know that I come here every year. I run workshops up and down the cliffs, and it's all about photographing seabirds, and it's just a fantastic area. Along this coastline you've got all these, don't know if you can see them in the background, all these really high cliffs, and you get all the seabirds nesting on the cliffs in the summer months, and it's just absolutely superb. There's razorbills, there's gannets, there's guillemots, there's puffins, there's fulmars, all sorts of seabirds, and you get so much unbelievable behaviour. I come here, as I say, I've been coming here for about 10 years, and every year I still see new things, you know, new types of behaviour with all these seabirds. It's absolutely brilliant, and I would probably say this is the best wildlife location in the UK in the summer. There are lots of other areas that have got great wildlife. You've got the Farne Islands, you've got Bass Rock, you've got Skomer, and they're all brilliant, along with Bempton Cliffs. But Bempton Cliffs is probably the most accessible because it's on the mainland. With all those other areas, you have to get a boat over there. Now, I love a boat trip, so you know it's not a problem at all. But this is a really accessible place to take great wildlife pictures. So I would say it's probably one of the best wildlife locations in the summer in the UK. It's just stunningly good, and I'm going to spend a few days up here running workshops, but also, you know, before or after the workshops, hopefully getting some great footage and some great pictures as well. So yeah, I'll speak to you soon, guys. Bempton Cliffs is just such a great place for wildlife photography, as I may have already mentioned, and it's brilliant if you're new to photography because you get so many opportunities to practice. Because the amount of wildlife here, you get all that time to hone your skills, you know, how to shoot or how to photograph birds in flight in particular, and how to get those animals in focus. So I think for a person wanting to learn wildlife photography, especially how to capture birds in flight, you can't beat Bempton Cliffs. It's absolutely amazing. Now, I'm shooting a 2,000th of a second because I want to freeze the motion of these birds in flight, and of course I'm panning with their movement. The gannets I could probably shoot at 1,000th of a second because they glide and they're quite slow moving, whereas the guillemots, the puffins and the razorbills are a bit quicker. So if there's enough light, I'm going to set a 2,000th of a second because that's fast enough for those small birds, and of course it will be more than fast enough for the gannets. I normally have the lens stopped down 2/3 of a stop to make the lens a little bit sharper. So it's the maximum f5.6 lens, so I'm going to stop it down to f7.1, which will reduce the amount of light coming through the lens a little bit, but as long as there's enough, then that's not a problem. And then I'll set the lowest ISO that I can set, depending on the lighting situation, because obviously the higher the ISO, the more digital noise I get, and I want to keep that digital noise to a minimum. So yeah, camera settings are fairly straightforward. 2,000th of a second, stop the lens down by 2/3 of a stop from your maximum widest aperture if there's enough light, and the lowest ISO number possible depending on the lighting conditions. If the light's very low, it needs to be pushed up anyway, and you can use auto ISO, which is a good shout because the ISO will just go up and down depending on how much light there is, and if it's quite bright the ISO will drop, and as the light levels drop it will go up. So that takes one of those variables away. You don't have to think about it then. So yeah, as I say, you've got constant fly pasts all day from the gannets, from the guillemots, from the razorbills, and then there are puffins here, but not quite as many as somewhere like Skomer. But you know, all said and done, what a stunning location this is. Now, I think, as I say, this is probably one of the best UK locations for wildlife in the summer. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Right guys, when we're at Bempton Cliffs, the sort of conditions you want really are windy conditions, because when you get the wind, the seabirds hit that bank of wind that's coming in off the land and they rise up and they hover. Now this morning's quite still, so what I'm needing to do now is to find a little bump in the cliffs where you get a few sort of thermals, and that still makes the gannets rise up above the cliffs and some of the other seabirds, so you can get those shots, you know, so they're level with the camera or a little bit higher. We don't want to be looking down on them ideally. And as I say, on a windy day they come right up and they're hovering everywhere. But on a calmer day you need to find these spots. But there'll be spots all along the cliffs every now and again where there's just a little bump in the cliffs and they just rise above it. So you set yourself up there, making sure the light's in the right direction. So it's cloudy this morning, but if it was sunny, I'd want the light shining front light onto the gannets. As it's cloudy, doesn't matter, which sort of makes it a bit easier really, because I can shoot at any angle and not worry about the direction of the light because we've got this soft light. It also means that it's easier to get a full range of tones from the dark parts of the bird to the white parts of the wings, because the dynamic range of the scene or the subject is much less because the light's softer. So on a calm day, find these little areas where you've got the thermals, wait for the gannets to rise up, and then you've got some great flight shots. And as I say, it means you have to be a bit more patient, because on a windy day they're just there everywhere and they're hovering all the time. But if you find the right spot, it's still great photography. So I'm just waiting now for the gannets to come over the sort of lip of this sort of cliff and rise above it, and every now and again you get one come right at the camera and it looks absolutely stunning. So if you've not done much wildlife photography before, or if you're an experienced wildlife photographer and you haven't been to Bempton Cliffs, it is just one of the best places ever to take flight shots of seabirds. It's just fantastic. It's accessible. There's a great visitor centre with good coffee and good cake. There's facilities like loos and toilets, stuff like that. So and you've got all this fantastic wildlife, probably 10 minutes walk away. So it's absolutely superb. So I'm going to carry on shooting now. Blimey, we've just had a gannet literally come right over the brow. I mean, almost too close to photograph. I've got my 200 to 500 millimeter zoom lens. Sometimes you're zoomed out to 200 millimeters because they come really close. So yeah, here we go. Loads coming in. Yeah, on 200 mil there. It's so close. And they're all coming in again now, and they tend to come in little batches really. You have a little wait for a few minutes and there's nothing, and then suddenly you've got half a dozen gannets and then kittiwakes and all sorts of stuff coming in. So yeah, it's great. Yeah, I'll speak to you soon. One of the things I was keen to do this year at Bempton Cliffs was to use a slow shutter speed to create a bit of movement in the wings of the gannets. Now, I have used slow shutter speeds in the past, but I shot with a very slow shutter speed to create almost an abstract image. But this year what I wanted was the head and the eye of the gannet to be sharp, but with a little bit of movement in the wings to give a real sense of speed. Now, in order for this to work, I needed a really windy day, because I needed the gannets to be flapping their wings a lot. Because I tried shooting at 1/250th of a second, and that still left a little bit of movement in the eye and the head of the gannet. So then I went up to 1/500th of a second, and because they were flapping their wings really fast as they were about to land, that created a bit of movement around the tips of the wings, and that's exactly what I wanted to go for. And I think it's worked really well. So it gives a sense of movement and speed with a sharp sort of features to the gannet. So most of the body's sharp, the head's sharp, and the eye's sharp. So yeah, it's a technique definitely worth experimenting with. So don't always shoot with a fast shutter speed to freeze the motion of the animal. Sometimes shoot with various shutter speeds, and in this case I picked a shutter speed that would add wingtip movement but kept the head and the eye of the gannet sharp. So I hope you enjoyed this video. And as always, if you have enjoyed it, if you can get a thumbs up, a like, that would be brilliant. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, if you can consider subscribing, that would be really great too. And then last but not least, there's some more footage and still pictures of the seabirds that I've taken from Bempton Cliffs. So if you want to hang on to the end of the video, there's lots of more footage and lots more stills coming up. So bye for now, guys.